Hey, conscious family, and welcome back to the Mindfulness series, part 2. Sit back and enjoy. What's up, conscious family? Welcome to Conscious Content Learning. Let's explore, engage, and create together as we enter a curriculum of inclusion, activism, creativity, and passion for education. Hey, conscious family, it's so good to have you back here with me. I'm so excited, but as always, as I promised, I'm going to be highlighting some Black-owned businesses, and today I am wearing the awesome shirt by my girl, Naturally Fly Detroit. Be sure to look and check her out on Instagram. This shirt says, "I am Black, mixed with hot water cornbread, collard greens, awesome, personality, style, intellect, beauty, strength, power, self-love, respect, hustle, grit, but mainly Black." So please be sure to check out Naturally Fly Detroit on Instagram. All right, conscious family, so let's get to it. Welcome back to, again, Mindfulness series, part 2. So if those of you are just now joining us, no problem. We love and we appreciate you for being here right now. So in the first part, I just talked about what Black history is and how it's presented in schools. We talked about the issues behind it all, and today we need to talk about the approach, where to start. So I definitely want you all to be prepared. Grab your pen, grab your notebook, even your phone, and let's prepare to take some notes. First things first, I want us to write down the word RARE. R-A-R-E. This is going to be our acronym for today. So, with the first thing, R is going to help us with the entire way of going about this in schools as a conscious educator. R stands for reflection. This is the who. Who are you? What are your bias? How do you identify? And what are you bringing to your classroom setup? For me, I identify as a Black woman, a Black strong woman, so that I know that I'm going to have that unconscious bias too when I go and I teach my students. Another thing is, what issues do you stand by? This might be your political views. You have to identify the biases that you have before you decide to go and teach about culturally conscious things. Continuing with R, I also want you to think about, who does your school community involve? That means, what does the makeup of your students look like? Do you teach a majority Black class? Do you teach a majority white class? Who is in your classroom that you need to make sure you have those texts in place for them to? And which also means this needs to tell you of who they may need to learn about. Because remember, we not only want to create those mirrors so students can see themselves in the text, but you also want to have those windows. So if you have certain group of students that may not have engaged or even read a text about someone who may look differently than them, then you know that's where you need to begin. Again, you need to now, continuing with the R for reflection, is think about the joys. I want you to not only focus on the issues. We talked about that problem in schools, specifically with Black History Month. We always focus on the wrong of it all. Just because you're learning about a different culture does not mean you want to always focus on the downfalls of that race or that ethnicity or just that group as a person or who they are. You want to focus on the joys, the highs and lows of the entire thing. So that was a lot, folks. I'll give you some time. You ready? Okay. Going on to the A in RARE. A is standing for address. Now let's address it. You've realized your bias, you've talked about your issues, you've looked at your students, you've looked at your school community, you've talked about the socioeconomic issues, and all of the above, friends. Now let's go ahead and put a plan in motion. This is when you take out your lesson plans, you scratch everything that's fit on that white systematic racism lessons, and you try something different. You've addressed who you're going to talk to. Now we need to put the plan in motion. So you need to go out, get a blank piece of paper, and start writing out what you need to do. If I know this is my community, what type of text do I need to incorporate? What type of things do I need to be talking about? And then the most important step, which is what people forget to do in this addressing stage, is creating that safe space. If your classroom makeup is not a safe space of engagement and a comfortable environment, you can't start an important conversation like this. You can't make students uncomfortable yet if you haven't built that safe space where they know it's okay to not know. It's okay to explore something different. That is the thing that you really need to make sure that you do. And then also making this a routine. Not a monthly project, not something that you can pat yourself on the back and say, I've checked this off once a week or one time a month. No, remember, we are going on conscious consistency. This means in your plan, when just like you make your lesson plans for Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and so on, these conscious curriculum things need to be added into those daily plans. You have time. You're just not used to adding in that time. It takes time for something to become a habit, so that means you need to consistently stay with it. That's the A in address. So we went over the reflection, we went over addressing it. Now let's go to the other R, which is the regroup. The regroup is after addressing it and you've put on those lesson plans, you've created it, and you've presented it to your students after creating that safe space, you come back and regroup. How did my kids take it? How did they receive it? What are the questions that they're coming back and asking me? Do I still have more research to do? How are my students taking it? Because these are the people who you need to listen to. It's not just about yourself. You're wondering how your students are taking it. Are they grasping? Are they still uncomfortable? That's fine. Remember, this is all about making the comfortable uncomfortable, because some of your students may not have even been taught these things because it's not in the everyday curriculum. And that's why it's important for conscious content learning. We want to involve and make people aware. We want to give the voiceless, which are your students, a voice. We want them to be the next leader. We want them to be the next conscious kid out here, because remember, they navigate the world just like you. They're not in school all day, 24/7. They actually have real lives, real issues that they have to control and have to be able to problem solve and understand. You need to help them understand the world. So this is why it's important to regroup, because maybe the initial plan that you started out with they weren't receptive of it. Or maybe it's a new way that you have to go about explaining it. Practice, family. It's not all about one person knows how to do it better, or this may be your first time. I'm definitely talking to my educators that are not of color. I understand sometimes it may be hard. I understand sometimes you want a book to teach you. I'm giving you these guidelines, but at the end of the day, it starts with you. At the end of the day, you have to take that step and just do it. Just take that leap. You tell your students to be courageous. You tell them to be strong. You tell them that they are leaders. You need to also take your own advice. The same advice that you're giving your students, you need to give yourself. It's okay to be uncomfortable. It's okay to not know. But that's when you take that step as an educator and put this rare toolkit to use. Go back, regroup, and research. If you don't know, guess what you need to go do? Open up a book and find out. Okay, family. And last thing, in the rare, we've talked about reflect, we've talked about addressing, we've talked about regrouping. Now let's talk about the E, which is just continuing to execute. When you're consciously and consistently putting forth the effort to include this rare toolkit curriculum. Conscious content learning is about patting ourselves on the back because we know that at the end of the day, we are going to continue this work. It's not easy. It's something that may be new to many of us because it wasn't taught to us. The only person that I knew about in my social studies class was Martin Luther King, and I knew that because we had a day off. That's a problem. The only time I learned about socioeconomic status was when certain kids didn't get some of the books that I got, didn't get some of the resources, weren't able to participate in after school activities. Hello? That's a problem, right? These are everyday things that these students face, but that aren't talked about in the safe space called the classroom. Are you going to let that problem continue to manifest throughout this educational system, or are you going to do something about it? I'm trying to provide you all with the toolkits that I know I wanted to see as a student, and that I want to make sure that I am instilling in my classroom. I want you on this executing, on the E. You have to continue to build it. It doesn't just stop. That one plan, the world changes. So you're going to have to keep updating. Something new comes out. Current events happen each day, people. We get a new president how many times a year? Let's think about it. These things are changing, so you have to keep updating. Just like you update your regular lesson plan, you have to do the same thing with your conscious content. It's the same thing. We need to stop thinking of it as two separate things. Just how you talk about social studies, guess what? Talking about cultures and different things of that nature, that's social studies too. Make it one. There's so many things that you can do. And I know you're thinking, can you, now that you've given me the rare toolkit, can you now give me the resources? No problem. Stay tuned for part 3. I wish you all well. I love you all. I thank you again for joining me, Conscious Family. And remember, each day is a new day to become a conscious teacher. See you guys next time.